What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to episode 7 of the Charge to the Top here with Hereford FC. And today I have for you guys the end of Season 1 live commentary. Today, well, we're going to be talking about the plans for next season, having a look back at this season over kind of some of the performers, and of course we have one last game to play to conclude the season. So anyway, last episode was a live com doubleheader. Definitely go check out if you didn't already. And as you may well have guessed by the fact we're back here for the final game of the season, we had a really good end of season kind of run of form, and we've secured the title with a few games to spare. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm going to blitz through these real quick. We beat Barnstaple 2-0. That was a good performance to open things up. Matty Forster and Jaden Hall, our two wingers, getting the goals there. We then absolutely bottled it against Houghton and went from 2-1 up at half-time and ended up losing the game 3-2. And at that point, actually, Salisbury were kind of hot on our heels still because they had a very good end to the season themselves. Anyway, the next game we had was against Tiverton. It was a 1-0 win. It was one of those games where you kind of just scrape by, but the one goal was enough. Unfortunately for us, one goal just couldn't be found in the following game as we did draw 0-0 with Bridgewater. As you can see here, Mason Watkins-Clark getting the Man of the Match award, a player who was kind of out of favour with me, if I'm honest, for a little while earlier on in the year. But I've given him first team football after he really pushed for it. And to be honest, he's been absolutely superb for us. You can see in his last 5 games, an average rating of 7.62. Kind of emphasises that, I guess you could say. Anyway, in the next game we beat Yate 4-2, a good little performance here, 4-0 up before half-time. 2 goals conceded in the second half was perhaps a little bit disappointing, but it was always comfortable. We then took on Mangotsfield, and as you can see, we won 4-0 again. The goals just flowing in, Jaden Hall with another 2 to add to his name, and well, the right winger, he's been a bit of a surprise package this year. 12 goals, 14 assists, 6 man of the matches. He's done very well for us out wide, the 23-year-old. So anyway, that was a good little result. And in the last game, which actually concluded and confirmed that we had won the league, we won 9-1. Yes, 9. We took 345 away fans. And the actual attendance for the game was 400. So even the home fans outnumbered significantly by our support. And while our supporters got to see a fine game as David Lynch picked up 4, Jake Sinclair got 2. And well, we ran home victors. So anyway, that was absolutely fantastic. In terms of kind of what's happened since winning the league, there's been a few news items come through. We'll try and find them real quick just to have a look through. But of course, with us now kind of knowing where our fate lies next year, we've been given some money. That win was our biggest ever win, which was absolutely fantastic. Of course, the board delighted, and as were the fans, at the fact that we had won the league, that we had met expectations. Worth noting that I have, since the last episode, signed another year-long contract at the club, which is great stuff. David Lynch getting a lot of plaudits for his contribution in the 9-1 win. But perhaps the most exciting news is the fact that our wage budget has been set at £6,000 for next year, and our transfer budget at £94,000. So we've actually got a fair bit of money to try and make some moves. Anyway, speaking of kind of moves and what's coming up, as you can see, the overall balance currently sits at £454,000, which is great. But we are in the planning and building stages for training facilities and youth facilities, both of which would be coming kind of in September time this year. To give you an idea, those training kind of facilities, I believe the youth facilities are going to cost just shy of £200,000, and the training facility is going to cost in the region of £100,000. So they're not cheap. They're going to take up a lot of the money that we have secured this year, but hopefully those training facilities are going to kind of provide a platform, I guess, for the club, because as you can see right now, we don't have any facilities. They're just nothing to write home about. But we have been making some good money this year through kind of just the sheer support that we've had. And as a result, financially, you know, we're in a situation where we are able to invest in those areas. So as I mentioned, new transfer budget. And with that, I've started to try and make some early moves. And in fact, actually, we made a few moves before the end of the season. The first of which was a player called Danny Smith, 16 years old. Looks like a superb young player. And well, guess what? We signed him from Haverhill Borough. I've never heard of Haverhill Borough, but they seem to have loads of really good players who generated at them, and there's probably a few more here that I'd like to get, if I'm honest. Players like David Turnbull-Smith, another player who I've got my eye on, but he doesn't want to join us, unfortunately. But yeah, they've obviously been a provider for us for a few players. Danny Smith here looks like he's going to be a great little playmaker in the future. Only 16 years old, great determination, great flair, 14 teamwork, 12 vision, great technique, good passing as well. I think he's going to be a good playmaker in the not-so-distant future, and I'm kind of excited to give him a few opportunities. And he will be a very good backup, actually, to another former Haverhill Borough in Dan Townsend, because really, Townsend is our only playmaker that we have. And yes, there is a bit of a golfing quality between the two players, but I do feel like Danny Smith could step up to the plate when needed to as a backup potentially next year, despite the fact he's only 16 years old. Anyway, I did mention the fact I was looking at the goalkeeper for Haverhill Borough. I've actually got another goalkeeper, and I've actually spent £29,000. Now, the player in question is Joe Driscoll. Some of you will know I've talked about him in previous episodes. Fantastic goalkeeper, really wanted to get him. And I did have the option to pay nothing and get him at the end of the season, potentially, on a pre-contract. But my big worry with that was that, he might just sign for someone else and someone else might get in there sooner. With the season concluding, teams are then actively looking for players. So I decided to snap him up whilst I could. The fee paid is £29,000. However, £22,000 of that is going to be paid over the next 4 years, which works out, I think, at something like £500 a month we're going to be paying towards this guy's kind of joining us. Of course, he's only signed a 1-year deal, and the fact that we can only offer players contracts that last until kind of the end of next season makes me hesitant to spend too much on a player. But at the same time, this guy, 20 years old, superb goalkeeper. Really, really like this guy. He's had a great season, actually, as you can see here, playing for Farnborough. But joining us now, a bit of a step up for him, but I think he's going to be a great player going forward and a fantastic goalkeeper with great aerial reach and great command of area. And due to the fact that obviously Stuart Searler is leaving the club potentially at the end of his contract, he doesn't want to renew it as a coach. I do need another goalkeeper, and Joel kind of fits the bill. And well, if we just quickly compare him to who would have been our goalkeeper next year, which is Wakeman, you can see the difference in class. He's just absolutely incredible. Better aerial reach, better command of area. His shot stopping isn't incredible, to be fair, for Driscoll, but I think he more than makes up for it in other areas of his game, and certainly for the level that we're going to be going into next year in terms of the Southern Premier, he's going to be a top goalkeeper in that division. Anyway, the last player we signed, £1,000 paid for him from Hitchin, and it's this man, Kane Smith, another player who I've had my eye on for a little while, a player my scouts unearthed really early on in the season as a potential player. I've kept my eye on him, I've been thinking about signing him, and I have brought him in. And you may notice that both with Smith and Driscoll, actually, the wages, I'm willing to offer players a little bit more money because I feel like the guys that we're going to be signing this summer are going to add significantly quality to the side, and I feel like Kane Smith is no exception there. You can see as a fullback on support, a great player in this area, very well-rounded attributes. Obviously, great decision-making and leadership is nice too. He's only 21, amazing physicals as well, which you really can't fault. And, he's going to be a great player at the level that we're going into in the Southern Premier. But I also feel like he's a player who is capable of stepping up to the plate, hopefully when we reach the Vanarama Conference South in the not-too-distant future. So anyway, those are the transfers we've made so far. In terms of the money that we have, as I said, we've got about £84,000 to spend in transfer budget. Wage budget, we've got £3,000 spare there. Obviously, when you kind of look at the squad at the moment, with the exception of the 2 new players that we've bought, we've not offered players that much in the way of wages. You kind of look at the starting 11, there's a lot of players earning less than £100. I have no doubt that those players are going to be seeking wage rises next year. But I would like to perhaps, invest in a few more star players. Obviously, Kane Smith, Joe Driscoll, even Matty Hamilton, who we signed last episode. Players who are very, very good. I'm willing to offer them a little bit more in the way of wages. And of course, with our wage budget basically doubling this year, there is going to be room to reinvest. And of course, worth noting that the likes of Ryan Green, players who were here when I joined, who were on £250 a week, contracts are going to be expiring. We're not going to have to worry about them too much more. You may have noticed an injury in the squad here, and that's to Rob Purdy, another player who was here when I first joined the club, a fantastic player. Unfortunately, out with a hip injury. He's been out for 2 months with it. I didn't know if I wanted to renew this guy's contract. I feel like the hip injury is kind of, again, a final nail in the coffin. It's kind of sad for both Purdy and Ryan Green because they're 2 fantastic players and players who are very much associated with Hereford Football Club. But unfortunately, the reality of it is that we're getting promoted next year, going into a higher division. These are 2 players who didn't feature all that regularly this year in the first team. And with their injuries, with their kind of age getting on a little bit, I'm going to struggle to justify renewing their contracts, unfortunately. So anyway, let's get into today's game. As I said, it's last game of the year. It's going to be against Poulton. After that 9-1 win, I'm not really sure what to expect in this game. Poulton themselves in 15th. Just to look at how the league table shaping up, you can see Larkhall making a late push for the playoffs, but they are going to need Swindon or Tiverton to slip up. The likes of Taunton and Salisbury, who we played last episode, already secured themselves playoff spots. Before we get into this game, just one more thing I'm going to show you me doing and so you know it's a thing. Obviously, contracts for players are going to be expiring in the not too distant future. In England, you can approach a player who's based in England 1 month before their contract ends. So that, of course, being at the start of June. Obviously, we're only in April now. The season for the lower league seems to end fairly soon in this database. I don't know if that's the case in real life or not. But what I'm actually going to do is, during this kind of down period, we've not got money to worry about. This is a list of all the players who are considered realistic transfers with 1 year left on their contract. And I'm pretty much going to select probably a few hundred of these guys and just mass scout them. I have no doubt there'll be some gems in here for us to find. And yeah, we're just going to select a lot of them. Obviously, we've got a few months until the 1st of June, kind of that golden period where we can start to approach to sign a lot of these players. So getting us kind of fuller database, I guess, of knowledge of players who are going to be available come that time of the year, it's going to be fairly important. And, well, you might notice from some of the clubs here, there's some players playing a few divisions ahead of us who aren't considered completely unrealistic transfers. And as a result, it'd be good to kind of get them on our record books, work out who's available, and perhaps seek out a few hidden gems for basically free transfers going into next season. Anyway, let's get into today's game. In terms of the team, we're going to go with the squad that I've kind of relied on a lot. Of course, the new player Driscoll going to make his debut in goal. A bit odd for a goalkeeper to be making his debut on the final game of the season. But of course, in the lower leagues of England, there is no transfer window. So it's kind of something I like. We can bring in players whenever we want. Anyway, at left back, we go with Kane Lewis, a fantastic youngster. Really established himself this year with 31 appearances in the league. Been a good player, defensively perhaps lacking a little, but can't complain about his contribution this year. Alongside him in the centre of the defence, we go with Lewis Lacey, the former FC United and Manchester man. Alongside him, we go with Watkins Clark, who's had a very good second half to the season. The 22-year-old really forced himself into contention. A 7.34 average rating for him for the year. At right back, it's Kane Smith, the new man on the block. You may have noticed that both of our fullbacks now have the first name Kane. There's probably some reference or joke I can make there. I'm going to leave it up to you guys in the chat to establish something. Anyway, on the left-hand side, we have Matty Forster. Fantastic season for this guy. 19 years old, 10 goals, 9 assists. Can't complain about that one little bit. Over on the right-hand side, of course, his counterpart is Jayden Hall, who has 12 goals and 14 assists for the year. Amazing physicals, this guy. Very much a winger, not a midfielder or a wide midfielder on attack, but he has made this role his own. And he's performed very, very well for us this year. In the centre of defensive mid position, we of course go with Adrian Clifton, a player who I signed in January to play this role. In truth, he's not kind of set the world alight, a 6.94 average rating. Granted, over his last 5 games, the average ratings have been slightly better for him, but worth noting that I have not extended his contract as of yet. He hasn't blown my mind in terms of how well he's performed for us, but definitely a player under consideration for next season. Anyway, alongside him we have Dan Townsend, the scorer of absolute screamers across this season. A fantastic player, 26 years old, one of the big players in the squad, 16 assists and 4 goals to his name. Hopefully he can have another good performance today. And then up top we go with David Lynch, and potentially for the last time ever we are going to have Jake Sinclair playing up top, a player who I kind of had a feeling at the start of the year we were going to struggle to keep hold of at the end of his contract, and in truth, that fear has been realised because he's still not interested in talking to me. We're in April now. We are going to get promoted, but he has, if I check under information, he has aspirations or ambitions to play in the Vanarama National League. Whilst I feel like we can actually get there in the not too distant future, I feel like the National League is something that I don't want to say we should be getting back-to-back promotions to the National League, but, well, given the financial infrastructure we have, given the squad that we already have, I feel like a lot of these players are good enough to play in that division in a few years, you know, if they play regular first-team football, and it's going to be a great shame if we do lose Jake Sinclair, because if he was to buy into the project a little bit more, I think he could kind of realise those ambitions with Hereford. Anyway, let's get into today's game against Poulton. Very excited about our team. On the bench, just real quick, actually, we've got Moulton, a great backup centre-back this year. Very capable of stepping in when we have injuries. Definitely a player who will feature next year in the squad. We have Ismail Diallo, an interesting player, and interesting because you'll see he's currently lined up to play in the Irish under-19 side, I think. You can see here, he's part Irish and part from the Ivory Coast, and it's a little bit confusing having an Irishman who's also Ivorian, because he's played for both teams internationally, and I actually had a bit of a panic because I saw a news item come in saying that he'd been called up for the under-19 side for Ireland, and I was sat there thinking, oh my gosh, in another video I said he was from the Ivory Coast. Did I get the flags wrong? Turns out I didn't. It's just a bit weird. He's Irish and Ivorian, and of course the flags are mirrored, so that kind of confused me a little bit. Anyway, the remainder of the players on the bench, we've got Jacob Cook, We've got Coultres, another player who joined midway through the season. He's okay. He's kind of in a similar kind of bracket, I guess, to Clifton, where I like Coultres, but he hasn't set the world alight since joining the club, and I don't know if I can justify keeping him on. Anyway, the last player we have, Matty Hamilton. He's actually had an injury, which has been very unfortunate, a groin strain, out for 4 weeks, so hasn't played that much since joining us last episode. He has got 2 goals in 5 appearances, of which 3 were on off the bench, and he's going to be on the bench for today's game, and hopefully if we need him to, he can come on and have a real impact. So, of course, not much on the line in terms of this game, although we did lose to Poulton last time we met them. In truth, this is going to be a little bit of an exhibition. Of course, always good to win your final game of the season, but we know that in terms of our league fate, there is nothing on the line going into this game. Worth noting that with the 9-1 win last time out, we surpassed the 100 goal mark for the season. We have scored 103 goals in 41 league games going into this match, and well, it'd be nice to add a few more to the collection if we can, as Lynch, oh my gosh, he's just scored a bit of a banger. The header down by Watkins Clark. And it's David Lynch, the man who came in as one of our first transfers this year to play alongside Sinclair, who as well, he's hammered one home here. Forster with the cross, back post, nice little ball. Watkins Clark, intelligent nod down, half volley, bang. How do you like those apples? Pick that out. We're 1-0 up after a minute. It's the perfect start to the game. And, well, I don't think we can surpass the 9-1 last time out, but we will do our utmost. And, well, there's going to be a highlight immediately. Could we have 2 goals in the opening 3 minutes? It's actually them on the attack, although we do win the ball back now. But Lewis Lacey, not the best of passes there forward. And, well, we give the ball back to them. Although now Sinclair, with his pace, can he burn them? Can he burn them for speed? Lays it to Forster. Lynch is in the middle. Cross hits the woodwork. I've not seen that happen in FM17 all that often. It used to be something that happened all the time in past FMs. Unfortunately for us, this time the cross hits the woodwork and there's no one there to follow up and get the rebound potentially in. And, well, now we need to defend if we can. Nice tackle by Kane Lewis. In fact, it wasn't a nice tackle at all. I've just realised we have Kane Smith, Kane Lewis and Lewis Lacey in our defence. That's going to get really confusing. I need to find someone with the first name Lacey or another Smith, maybe. I don't know. The overlap of names is mind-blowing. Maybe I'm a simple man, but that would confuse me. Last episode we had 2 Wrights playing up front for the opposition. We now have 2 Kanes. I mean, they're multiplying is all I can say. 60 minutes gone, something that's not multiplying, the goals. Still only 1-0. Obviously, that opening goal very, very early on for us. We had that kind of half chance as we hit the woodwork. But with the exception of those 2 efforts, as you can see looking at the stats in the bottom left, it's been a bit of a drab affair. So, not ideal. I've just been informed Sinclair has a facial injury by my assistant. He looks fine in terms of conditions. Even if he is injured, Jake Sinclair, would it be bad of me not to want to take him off if he's injured and he can play through it, just because then he might get more injured and not be able to leave us in the summer? I don't know. That seems like something that, you know, like in a relationship where you, I don't know, you guilt trip your partner or you do something to your partner so they don't leave you because you love them too much and can't let them go. Of course, speaking from past experience there. No, I probably would keep him on though because I'm a terrible person. Either way, Jaden Hall, who's not a terrible person, he's banged in goals and assists this year. Out on the right hand side, cuts inside. Unfortunately, we give away the ball. I've noticed a few of their players on the bookings. Powell isn't though, and Powell is through. Can he score? He can. A lovely finish in truth by Poulton. It's their first shot on target of the game, and it's Lamar Powell with the goal. We were really just caught napping at the back. That pace kind of just tore us apart. The big ball over the top. Is that Lewis Lacey there? It is indeed. Caught flat-footed, didn't turn around. And perhaps the keeper should do a little bit better. Driscoll there. Of course, his debut today, so we will be judging him. And his first ever shot against him that's been on target for Hereford has found the back of the net. Not the start for a goalkeeper that you want, but of course, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's new to the job. He's new to the team. Of course, if you concede another one now, then I'm suddenly going to just sack him. And, well, the player who I believe may even be the club's record transfer at £30,000, he's conceded 2. Lamar Powell has 40 goals. What? He has 40 goals for the season. What? What? I need to check this. How good is he? Lamar Powell. He's got 28 goals in the league, 3 in the FA Cup, 2 in the FA Trophy, 4 in the Southern League Cup. I mean, he's a leading player for most teams in our division. He doesn't seem like anything that incredible, but apparently he's been banging in the goals, and he's got 2 against us today. I mean, fair play to him. And, well, half-time, not the first half we wanted after the start. You know, I thought cruising along, 1-0 up after just a few minutes. Unfortunately for us, well, the rest of the first half really didn't go the way that we wanted it to, and we do find ourselves a goal down. And now it's going to be up to us, I guess, to show a bit of character, to show that authority that a team who are top of the table and look like they're going to win the league comfortably should do, and that is win this game, and turn this around here, because we're 2-1 down. We lost to them before, Poulton. They're not a team that we can afford to take lightly. But unfortunately for us, right now, they are the better team. They are performing better. It's been very, very questionable by us so far. And, in truth, we've not created any clear-cut chances. We've just not had that much in the way of opportunities. Adrian Clifton's not had a great game, so we'll bring in Jacob Cook for him. Jake Sinclair also not playing that well. I'm going to bring on Matty Hamilton for him. This may be the last time we ever see Jake Sinclair in a Hereford shirt, unfortunately. But he's just not produced the goods on kind of his last ever game for the club. The guy who I'm pretty sure is going to end as our top goal scorer for the team and also our highest average rating. But unfortunately, not a game to remember today. It's been pretty poor by him in truth. And, well, there's not long left in this game. Let's do a team talk from the touchline. I never do these enough. People have a go at me in the comments sometimes for not using them. I guess I should go more attacking, considering that time is kind of slipping away here. So that's what we'll do. We'll play the two strikers this way around. We're going with a Poacher and an advance forward. Cook is going to go off centre mid on defend as well. So committing a few more men up the pitch, looking for the fullbacks to push on too. 15 minutes left in this game. We've already made 2 subs. Don't really have another option on off the bench in truth to really change this game drastically. I guess we could take off Jaden Hall, who's had a really poor game actually. A player who I was singing his praises earlier, but in this game, a 6.8 average rating for him, struggling for fitness. He's going to come off. And, 13 minutes left in this game. Hopefully, we can kind of kick on now and try and make something magical happen in the last 10 minutes and mount a comeback. We do have a corner. It's whipped in. Lacey can't deal with it. Coultre's headed away. Hamilton back into the mix. Unfortunately, cleared away there. There was a clear-cut chance in that kind of ruckus in the box. A real opportunity. But unfortunately, the ball was scrambled clear by Poulton and they maintain their 1-goal lead. And maybe that's a sign of a bit more attacking attempt, but the longer this game goes on, the less time we have to actually get anything. And 3 minutes left of added time. Unfortunately for us, it's looking increasingly likely that in this, the last game of the season, we're going to lose. A disappointing performance, perhaps a little bit of complacency by our players. They know they're promoted. There's not a lot to worry about. Lynch should have scored that as well. That was another clear-cut chance with 5 seconds left of the game, literally. Unfortunately, he skied it, and, as I said, the players on the beach early. I'm not happy, boys. What was that all about? We lose 2-1. We maintain the spot at the top of the table. Looking at it here, Salisbury won 3-1. Swindon held on to their playoff spot. Tiverton also held on to their playoff spots, and not a lot happening in the league at the top of the table to end the season. And in truth, towards the bottom, I'm not sure what the situation was. We'll have a quick look and see who went down just out of curiosity. But no, not the game that I wanted. We've lost 1-0 against, 2-1 against Poulton. We had opportunities. They're 15th in the league. They're nothing special, but they have done the double over us there. And, one of their players getting 40 goals for the season, not that bad, was it, by him, really? But anyway, to conclude this, the end of Season 1 here, we are going to have a quick look through the squad and kind of what happened this year as a whole. As you can see, we have finished top. At the bottom of the table, Slimbridge and Wantage are the teams who finished bottom, both on 29 points. Bidford managed to avoid the drop very narrowly, and then there's a bit of a gulf between them and Yate in 19th. So anyway, that was pretty disappointing. Not particularly happy with how that game went on, but overall, not a bad first season. If we just look at the average ratings here, you can see the big performer, Kane Smith, actually had a very good start to his time at the club, a 7.8 average rating. But behind him, the big players really, a few surprise packages in here. Jaden Hall, highest average rating in the side. He's been superb this year out on the right-hand side. Obviously, Jake Sinclair's had a fantastic year, but unfortunately, it's looking like it's going to be his last year. I'm desperately hoping perhaps that some teams just haven't uncovered him yet and so we're able to keep hold of him. Anyway, the next player, Matty Forster, a bit of a surprise package. Of course, the former Northampton man was never given a chance in the football kind of league in League 2 playing for Northampton. He's come to us, he's played regular first-team football. He's developed with that football and in truth, he's been a very impressive player for us. 10 goals and 9 assists for him. Lewis Lacey also had a very good season, the centre-back, former FC United and Manchester man. Only 22 years old, only on £65 a week, but a 7.39 average rating for him. And Down Townsend also performing very, very well, the young playmaker. I say young, he's 26, but he's a regen. But he's had a very good year, the playmaker. If we just look at the kind of top goal scorers here, you can see Jake Sinclair leading the way with 33 goals in all competitions. Hot on his heels was David Lynch, who himself got a decent tally of 23. And, well, you'd think next year, if we are going to lose Sinclair, David Lynch is going to be a man we look to bang in the goals for us. He's got good consistency. And you can see here, a good player for most Vanarama North and South side. So he's still going to be playing in perhaps a league slightly below his ability next year. So hopefully he can come up with the goods again. Anyway, behind the two strikers who have played regularly for us, Matty Forster and Jaden Hall right up there. Worth noting that the next player, Dan Townsend, obviously has 5 goals. And then from then on out, it kind of just decays down to not a lot. In terms of the assists, again, Sinclair leading the way. Been great for us this year. I'm going to keep repeating myself. It's going to be sound like I'm a broken record, but we're going to struggle to replace him. I don't think we will be able to replace him in truth. Behind him, a lot of the usual suspects, Dan Townsend, Jaden Hall, Forster and Lynch. Those players going forward have just been absolutely superb for us. I guess an honourable mention to Kane Lewis at left back, who has got 4 assists, which isn't too bad. In truth, defensively, we've just been very, very solid this year. Obviously, Lacey's played very well with a 7.38 average rating, but Mason Watkins-Clark has also played well with a 7.23. Moulton has played well on a 7.3. Obviously, Kane Smith, a new addition to the side, looking like if he can keep this full run of form going into next season, he could be incredible for us. A 7.8 average rating for him. In truth, this year's been a bit of a revamp. You know, I've got rid of a lot of Hereford players, and I know that for some people who are Hereford fans who came into this save, they might be a little bit disappointed by that, but unfortunately, kind of with these lower league databases, the players aren't, regularly updated attribute-wise. There are players missing from the team who would normally be there, and I kind of just had to sign the players I needed to succeed. In terms of the kind of general signings, the squad is very young. The squad is of a nice size now. Of course, when you look at the players whose contracts are expiring at the end of this season, there's a few here who I would like to keep on. There's a few here who I'm sure will be kept on. In truth, this year we have signed a lot more players than perhaps we needed to. There's a lot of players in this side who we signed and just haven't played that much. You can kind of see this here. You've got players like Staley. I think he was actually already at the club, but players like Matty Hamilton, a new addition who hasn't had that much in the way of opportunities. But you kind of look at players like Jerome Walker. He didn't play a lot after the first few games of the season, really. Players like Kim Jae-hyun, again, another player who got a lot of opportunities early on, but his fixture congestion eased as our cup runs came to very abrupt ends. Just didn't really have a spot in the side. And even beyond that, in the under-23s, you kind of look at the likes of Archie Love, players we brought in right at the start of our time at the club, and kind of by the end of December just simply weren't good enough for the first team anymore. So no, there's been quite a lot going on in terms of the season as a whole. Obviously, we did our main aim, which was to win the league. Cup-wise, bitterly disappointing in truth. We didn't really go on a cup run anywhere, which is... I'm disappointed by it, but at the same time, it did allow us to focus on the league, so I guess there's that. You can see the board expectation was to reach the 3rd round of the FA Cup. We reached the 2nd qualifying round, so we were 1 round off there. In the FA Trophy, we were expected to get to the 3rd qualifying round. We lost to Ramsbottom United. I think the board were kind of forgiving about that because they understood why we got knocked out to them. And it was actually a similar situation here with Cheshire United in the Southern League Cup. The board were disappointed because they wanted us to get to the 3rd round, but they weren't entirely disappointed by the fact we lost to a team in the league above us. So in terms of kind of the side going forward, do expect to see a fair few changes, as I mentioned. A lot of contracts running out at the end of the year. We're going to be left with, if we just check here, a squad of, drumroll please, 16 players for next season who are definitely still going to be here. There's a few areas where I definitely like to improve the side. I do feel like as well as Jaden Hall has done out wide on the right, and it might seem really harsh, I may need to find a better replacement out there for him. He's a good player, there's no doubt in that, but I don't know, he's dreading big matches, his lack of consistency. I'm just a little bit concerned that he might not be able to maintain the kind of form he's had this year going into next season. But yeah, I think in total, well, I guess in summary, I'm very happy with this season. I feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done. It would have been nicer to win the league by a more comfortable margin, but at the same time, 91 points is nothing to scoff at. In terms of what we're going to be looking for, it's going to be more of the same, I guess, in terms of trying to get young English players and giving them a second chance, particularly players whose contracts do expire, players who we can get in on freeze. Of course, the wage budget that we do have available is, as you can see here, just shy of £6,000, which is going to be absolutely fantastic for next season. I did have a look at the Southern Premier, and to put it into perspective, If we just look here at our total wages for the season, they sit at £177,000 a week. Obviously, our wage budget has basically doubled from then. So you're kind of looking at a salary limit per year of about £300,000 for us. And if we just really quickly compare that to the Southern Premier, you can see Basingstoke this year were the big team in that league. And while our wage total is going to be more comparable to theirs than anyone else's, worth noting that this year, despite all that money that they have, they are in 5th and they are only in the playoffs. So really, despite the fact we have all that wage budget, we've got to spend it wisely. And I think that's going to be a challenge this year, is going to be to bring in some real players of quality like Joe Driscoll, like Kane Smith, where we might have to offer them a few £100s in wages. But at the same time, I don't want to go overboard and kind of, buy players for the sake of it, or invest too much into just a few select players, because I feel like it's a little bit of a risky strategy, particularly in the transfer market, just adding 1 or 2 players who are very, very good to your team instead of trying to upgrade the squad as a whole. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up this episode from me. Hopefully you enjoyed this. As always, if you have done, smash the like button. If you've got any comments with regards to this season, observations you've made, any general comments, feel free to leave them down below. And other than that, thank you so much for watching as always. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.